How do you reconcile, look, you always talk about, for those of that listen to the podcast, listen to your stand-up, like not being everybody's cup of tea. You're kind of like, and you've kind of reconciled that. And yet here we are talking 2025, and you're in these giant movies. You're in Bad Guys too. You were in Joker a few years back. Like, for good or for bad, Mark, I'm sorry to break it to you. You have the biggest podcast on the planet, arguably, or top whatever.
Reputationally, yes.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Except that you are a main part of pop culture. Can you take that in?
I don't know what pop culture is anymore. It all seems very fragmented, and I don't quite see that I am necessarily a big part of pop culture. I do feel like I have found a place in it through persistence and talent. But I don't know, my brain still always compares me to, like, why am I not the biggest thing in the world? Why does that guy get to fill arenas? But ultimately, it's not, if I really think about doing those things, I don't want it.
Right.
But it is a way to constantly not feel good about myself, which seems to be, kind of a mode that I'm, unfortunately, I don't think comfortable with, but I live in that more than I want to. So I think in terms of reconciling, it's acknowledging that part of me as not being good, and sort of have a certain amount of pride and gratitude for where I'm at and the world that I've created for myself. So that's the reconciliation.
Well, it is. I mean, folks haven't seen the doc yet. It sounds like it's going to be coming hopefully sooner rather than later. But I found a really telling moment in this doc about you called "Are We Good?" where you're like talking to your dad and you're like, "I'm never going to win awards, Dad."
Yeah.
And it's again getting at this thing like, why do you need awards, Mark?
Well, that's an interesting thing because there is an element of, like everybody, if you're in this business, right, and you're putting out things that you want people to like or you want people to engage with. And, this idea that it's like, do it for yourself. It's like, all right, that's all well and good, but I'm doing it for myself, but I'm putting it out there for other people. And, so the idea that like that shouldn't matter is just, okay, but good luck with that.
You have to have a real, like, that's a different personality trait that I don't share either. You're right. That can just be so self-validating that's like,
Well, I'm better at it. I'm getting better at that. Like I can give but self-validation, even if you have parents that, weren't, giving you what you thought you needed in terms of that, and, whatever that hole is, that there is a sort of moment, if you've had to kind of self-parent your whole life, in the void, where you can actually be like, I'm pretty, I did a good job with that, right? And also, in terms of awards and stuff, look, no matter how many people tell me, like, it's not a meritocracy, and even if you learn the sort of what really happens with awards voting as an awards voter and who's voting and what they're voting for, it's a lot of times it's like, oh, I know that guy. It's got nothing to do with it. I get it. But the Peabody thing is real. That, and in terms of like
seeing who's won it, who hasn't.
Well, it was just like it's not even a no-brainer. It deserved it, at a different time.
Yeah.
But then you kind of break that down, and you're like, it's probably one person, or at that time I thought it might have been the language. Who the hell knows? But
right.
It doesn't matter to anybody. No, but I think it deserved it, right?
Yeah.
The other stuff, the politics of Emmys, Oscars, Grammys, whatever, and the voting, public of those things, I get that that's not a fair thing, and it's a, for whatever reason, people win that shouldn't.
Yeah, you look at the history of the Oscars. This is the old conversation. The ones that win aren't the greatest films.
That's right. But the Peabody, had a certain amount of integrity,
right?
And we did something within its purview.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe you'll get a Kennedy Center honor or a Melania Trump honor now, whatever they call them.
Yeah, then you got to wrestle with like, I'm not doing that. But no, it's really about validation, sadly, and I try to kind of reel that in. Like I'm in Stick with Owen, and I think it's a good show in the sense that the humanity of it is great.
Yeah.
And I like working with Owen. But you never know with these things. But people, I can tell when people come up to me like, they like it, and a lot of them like me in it. And however I feel about it is not important in that moment where you're like, oh, okay, well then it's doing something,